Today I'm transforming old vessels into stylish plant pots for my houseplants. Hello my sweets, it's Keisha. Welcome back to my channel and thank you for choosing to watch my video. Get ready to see how I give forgotten vessels a new lease on life with a few simple steps and some creativity. The first project I'll be working on is this wicker basket. I'm not sure where I got it from, but I like the look of it with some of my plants in it. There's two issues with it. First of all, it's a little bit wobbly, so I want to use some DAS air dry clay here to make it a little bit more stable. And then I'm thinking I want to change the color of it a little bit. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I have my piece of clay here and it's on top of a tray just so I can easily move it out of the way to work on my next projects. And a piece of parchment paper also. And I'm just going to knead this up a little bit. I don't even know that I need this much for this pot here. I was like thinking of different things that I can do for it, and I had all these elaborate plans, and then I said, you know, I think I just want to keep this one simple. So I'm just going to create a little wedge type situation. It's kind of leaning this way, so I think if I wedge it this way, just a little piece of clay, that will answer my problem. But I need this up a little bit more. And this is still a little too big. I'm just going to roll it out. I think that's gonna do it. Let me just make sure it looks like something, and it doesn't. Let me see if I can show you what it's looking like. It just looks like I slapped a piece of clay on the side of it. So let me see if I can't make this look just a tiny bit better. Let me take off some of this surplus here. Did I really think it was going to be that easy? So I'm just gonna shape that on there so it looks a little bit better. Make sure it still works, and I think that's going to be good. Alright, so now I'm going to just go ahead and set that aside to dry. The next pot I'll be working on is this Terra Cotta Pot. And I believe I got this at Home Depot a while ago. And I got two of them and I never used one of them. I used the other one, but I really didn't like how it was with the plant. So I thought I will use this just as a cover pot instead of a planting pot. Now I went ahead and sealed the outside with the polyacrylic matte sealer, so that it's hopefully a little water resistant, and that way the items that I glued to the outside will be protected from water when I go to water my plant. I also have here an IOD mold. It's called Toadstool. Well, you kind of can see that. It's called Toadstool, and it's toadstools, or what we call mushrooms also. And so I'm going to be putting some of these around this Terra Cotta pot. So what I also have is some cornstarch, and I'm just going to get a brush here that I use for the cornstarch, and I'm going to just lightly brush the mold. Let's see, I think this one. Lightly brush the mold with some cornstarch and mold the clay. So I have my clay here, and again I'm just going to condition it a little bit. I'm going to take a chunk off, and I'm just going to stick it in the mold. Oh, maybe a little too much cornstarch. That jumped right out of there. Let's try this again. Third time's a charm. Maybe the piece I have is a little too big. I'm just going to push this in and then slide off the excess. I want to get this as flat as I can. Flip it over and just kind of coax it out. And here we have our cutie little mushroom. And I'm just going to set this aside momentarily. And I'm going to do a couple more of these and then start gluing them on. I have all of the pieces molded now that I want to use, and what I also did, which is not a necessary step unless you want to use it as a cover pot without worry of it leaking, but I did take some UV resin and did it in layers and sealed this up, so you can hear that it is very hard. So I'm gonna go ahead and start adding the pieces on, and I'm going to slide this over here. And before I came on camera, I just went ahead and did a light sand on this, because remember I sealed it, but to be able to give the glue something to kind of adhere to. So I'm using quick and thick glue, and I did lay out the pieces kind of how I want them to look on here. So I'm just going to spread some glue on the back of these, and you just kind of want to be careful because they are still wet. And I'm just going to spread some glue on the back and place them on. I also have some tape set to the side here. Some masking tape in case I do need to tape them down, because at a certain point I am going to have to stand this up, the pot up, to get them all applied. So I'm just spreading the glue out in a kind of evenish layer. I'm going to be sure to get all the way to the edges. Voiceover Keisha here. I was so in the zone that I forgot to talk you through what I was doing in this section of the video. But you want to apply each piece of clay with gentle pressure, enough for the piece to stick, but not to crush the clay or ruin the design. Alright, back to the video. So I'm just going to go on and keep on gluing these pieces down until I've got the whole thing covered. Then I'm going to set it aside so the glue can fully cure. There's a couple of things that I've been learning along the way throughout this process. First of all, don't go too ham on the glue, because you'll have a lot of sliding issues, and also when the glue squeezes out from the sides, there's a lot of cleanup. So you just want to be sure to do kind of an evenish layer. You probably can't see that, and don't go like too crazy with it. And these pieces, some of them are quite delicate, so you just want to kind of be careful with that part. Also, have your tape ready. So I do have a couple of pieces pulled off here, and then I also have a paintbrush here to help clean up some of the squeeze out here. So I just have a cup of water that has a paintbrush in it there. And then you just take your piece of tape, and what I've been doing is kind of making it like a little sling on the bottom. Oops, sorry, I wasn't even in frame. So a sling kind of on the bottom here, and with light pressure so that it kind of stops it from sliding, stick it down. And so this is what it's looking like so far. So again, I'm just going to continue on here until I have them all glued on, and then set it aside to dry. The next item I have here is a glass vase. Or it might be a candle holder, but I'm going to be using it as a cover pot. So what I'm going to do here is take this folk art home decor chalk paint in French linen, and I'm going to give it a coat all over. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is go ahead and drop it first. What I'm going to do is go ahead and set this aside to dry, and then come in with a second or maybe even a third coat on this. And if I didn't already, since I was thrown off by the fact that I dropped it, I'm going to let all of those coats dry and come back to you with the next step. I ended up doing about 4 coats of the French linen to get full coverage on this pot here. So It's now fully dry, obviously, because I'm holding it. And then what I did was I came in and just drew like a checker pattern on here. I took the top and divided that into 3 squares, and then the bottom into 3, and then I connected the lines, and then I just went across this way, lengthwise on it. And then I've mixed up a mixture of French linen and Barcelona beige and this chalk paint to get a little bit of a darker color than the French linen by itself. And I'm going to go ahead and paint in the checker pattern now. I do have an angle brush here to help me get up to the lines. Now it doesn't need to, I don't necessarily need or want it to be super perfect, but it's going to help me not get too much of a wiggly line. So I'm going to go in and start painting this out. The clay on the bottom of this basket has finally dried, and I did have to add a little bit more because when it initially dried, when I went to set it up right again, it still wasn't level, so I added more to make it a little bit more level. Excuse me. Now, once it was all completely dry, I did give it just a light sand, and then I sprayed it with matte sealer. So what I'm going to do next is do a color wash, and I have mixed up Hazelnut and Cashew Waverly chalk paint, and I mixed it here with some water in this cup. Originally I was just going to do Hazelnut, but I felt like it was a little bit too dark for what I was looking for, so I mixed in some Cashew with it. So now all I'm going to do now is take a chip brush here and get this one painted. I'm just going to get into all of the grooves here and just kind of lighten up the color of this basket. I'm also going to go ahead and paint the bottom of this just so it isn't so stark, and then set it aside to dry. This is completely dry, so the next thing I'm going to do is come in with this Waverly Wax and Antique, and I'm going to brush that over the basket and then take this rag here and wipe it back. And again, I want to be sure to get into all of the nooks and crannies. So I'm going to go ahead and continue doing this until I've done the inside and the outside, and this one will be complete. So this pot is now completely dry, and I have Waverly chalk paint in Sandstone here, and I'm just going to base coat this whole thing in that color. Be sure to paint all around these clay pieces. You want to make sure you always check up, down, and side to side to make sure that you're getting all the paint all over whatever it is that you're may be adhering clay to. So I'm just going to go ahead and get a base coat on this and set it aside to fully dry before I come in with another coat. So the pot is dry now, and I did 2 coats of the Sandstone Waverly chalk paint, and now I have the antique wax out again, and I did go back and forth as to whether I wanted to do this or not, and I decided I'm gonna do it, and it's just paint, so if I don't like it I can repaint over it. So I'm just gonna come in here and just get it on, and then take that blue towel that's laying there and wipe it back. Again, you want to make sure that you're coming at it from all the different directions so that you don't miss any spots on your clay. Alright, so this is what it's looking like so far, and I'm really loving how it's given this some depth. I'm going to keep going and finish the rest of it, and then set it aside for this wax to kind of dry up. The antique wax is fully dry now, and I really love how this came out. So the next thing I'm going to do is take this Redesign Decor wax in the color Diamond Dust, and I'm just going to rub over the high points of all of the mushrooms. Now this product does say to wear gloves, so that's why I'm wearing gloves right now. I'm just going to take a little bit onto my finger. You could also use a paintbrush, but I feel like I have more control when I use my fingers doing this, so I'm just going to kind of slide it off of my finger here onto this mushroom, just over the high points, and then it says you can buff this to a shine. There, just highlights it beautifully. Just adds a little extra something to it. So I'm just going to go around and do all of these. Let that dry, and then I will seal it, and then this project here is done. This vessel here, container, pot, however you want to call it, took me on quite the journey. As we remember, I started out doing a checker print on here, and then I started to fade the lines to kind of, I don't know what I was trying to do, but I wasn't feeling that either. So after sitting and thinking on it for a couple of days, I decided to take it out into the garage, and I used this Rust-Oleum stone in bleached stone. And so I sprayed a couple of coats on there and let it dry, And this is what I have for this one. And I quite like this. So that's how this one ended up. Stay tuned for before and afters as well as the beauty shots. With some paint, clay, and wax, I was able to breathe new life into these old containers and turn them into stunning plant pots. So grab your dusty vessels and get crafting. Your plants will thank you for it. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already for more creative DIY projects. And remember, love, inspire, create. Love you, bye!